Hello, everybody. Welcome to Psych to Psych. We're a podcast brought to you by IGNC College, talking about anything and everything about psychology, from student life to everyday things. I'm your host for today, Erica Alfonte Corsandu, and I'm joined today by Psych Society's president, Arif, our hardworking and cool president. Arif, could you introduce yourself?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Arif Kashaf. I'm a student here, a senior in Diploma in Psychology, and I'm also the president for Psych Society.
All right. How are you today?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing very well, thank you.
All right. So we're supposed to be cozy and chill. Do you feel cozy and chill?
A lot chill.
All right.
Hopefully more cozy.
All right. So today is an introduction to psychology. This is the first episode of this podcast, and because we're here to educate and have the public know more about psychology, we're going to talk about what psychology is. So Arif, being the president of Psych Society at IGNC College, could you tell us what psychology is?
Wish. Well, psychology is actually very, very vast. It's actually a scientific study where we look at two things: mental processes and behaviors of people and humans. Basically, human behavior and how they think lah. And it exists everywhere and anywhere. So from home to school, at the park, even in the toilets, and how you use the toilets.
Oh, wow. Okay. Could you elaborate more on that? Like, how is psychology used, anyways, in like everyday life and in general? Especially the toilet part. Elaborate more.
To clear up on the toilet part, how people use the toilet, for example, toilet etiquette. For in Asian countries, we have the squat toilets, and that's part of our culture. That is also psychology because it's born from morals and values shaped through time. And when it comes to how the toilet is used, or how we use the toilet in general, that is also not only time-based, like culture, but it's also from our upbringing.
Ooh.
So that's just an example for the toilet part.
Wow, that's really cool. So how do you think psychology is used in our day-to-day? Especially for like, we're all students here, right? So like, most of us are students, even audiences who are potentially workers, parents, and so on. How do you think psychology is used in our day-to-day life, aside from the toilet example?
Practically speaking, in a general term, we have a lot of things, you know?
Ooh.
Like as a person, we have a lot of things to look at. We have identity, our own personal history, how we grow, how we think, our own religion, moral values. All of those play into part on how we act and how we think.
Wow. All right. So let's go into what makes a person a psychologist, and also about the people that make psychology. So in general, a lot of people know about psychiatrists, psychologists, and counselors, and they're all like well-versed in psychology, but there are differences. And some do happen to know more about psychology. Could you go into the differences between psychologists, counselors, and psychiatrists?
Sure. Generally, well, if we look into Malaysia, counselors are very widespread in comparison to psychologists and psychiatrists. You can see them in schools and they're rampant, they're everywhere.
Wow.
And the thing about counselors is that they can help you via therapy and other therapeutic methods, but they cannot diagnose you with anything. They don't have the licenses for that. And they can also prescribe you medicine. Now, when we look at psychologists, they can not only provide therapy, they can also diagnose you with certain things. So you might go to a psychologist for a referral to look at ADHD or autism. And the top one is technically the most difficult in terms of education. The psychiatrist, not only can they diagnose you and provide therapy, how they provide the therapy is via prescription of drugs. So that requires MD, so a medical doctorate.
Oh, I see.
A medical degree, sorry.
All right. That's pretty cool. Oh, another thing we should talk about is how a person can become a counselor and psychologist is not really known, but a lot of you can only be a counselor or a psychologist once you've attained your master's. A degree in psychology is not enough. And I think it's pretty important to emphasize on that. There's a lot of ethics and rules and reasons why. It's similar as to why like doctors in Malaysia, for example, they have an MBBS, or in the States, they do like I think a postgraduate. Is it a graduate or postgraduate?
I think it's postgrad.
Postgrad, yeah, because I remember they do pre-med
Mm-mm.
for like their degree, and then they do like a master's or something, right, in America?
Yeah.
Right. The ethics, it's very important that we remember these ethics. Don't you agree?
Yeah. You know what? Actually, generally, a lot of people, there's a stigma among Malaysian students that counselors are quite unethical.
Yes.
You know, like I would talk to my counselor and suddenly my business is through the roof.
And
Semua dah tahu and everything.
I believe it's important to clarify about school counselors as well.
Yeah.
Because not all school counselors are actually licensed. Right. They started as teachers and then they're counselors. Could you tell us about that?
Okay, the streamline to counselor and psychologist is actually a little different. Psychology has a lot of branches, and among them is counseling. And a lot of universities actually provide counseling courses, either in degree level or master's. So it is technically a shortcut, but at the same time, what they focus more in those degrees is not the same as what you would focus more in a master's degree under the pretense of psychology. You know, it is the same thing technically, but at the same time, it's not as in-depth. You don't have a lot of pretenses, all of the prerequisites.
Like for like school psychologists and like sorry, not school counselors, not school psychologists, pardon, school counselors, right? A lot of them, they were trained teachers first, and then because they were teachers first, they didn't get the proper like counselor training, right?
Yeah.
According
to Sir Sean, if I'm not mistaken, every year he needs to do a test to renew his license. But every 2 years, he needs to go for training for that license.
For the record, Sir Sean is one of our esteemed lecturers here at IJNC. He is a licensed counselor both in Singapore and Malaysia. He's a really cool guy.
He's very sweet.
He's very sweet and he's a great lecturer.
Psychologists, usually the streamline goes from, you can be like us, you can start with a diploma, but some in Malaysia, you might go for either
foundation in science, right?
Foundation in science, not necessarily. Because the requirements are a bit different from here and overseas. So it depends on your university. Always look at your university. Usually the requirements look like kena ada 3 credit, and one of them has to be maths, I think, and English.
And also science, I think.
Like
so. A science subject.
But I'm not sure. And that one is from memory, and my memory is not really that good.
It's okay.
So always check your university for your requirements. You can start off like us, diploma. You can also jump to degree, or you can do foundation, STP, anything. But once you go into degree, you cannot just after degree terus kerja. Unfortunately, because of the nature of psychology, since we're dealing with humans, and ethics is very important in psychology, so that it can lead to a lot of big changes in someone's life.
Yes.
You have to be very, very, first of all, well-versed, and also you have to be licensed in this thing. So you need to pursue masters if you want to become a psychologist. When you come into masters, you'll start your specialization. And under that, you can choose whatever you want. Forensic, you'll start to learn about crime and criminology. Not criminology, sorry. You'll start to learn about crime, criminal behaviors, delinquency, stuff like that. You can learn about child psychology, educational, clinical, and health psychology. Those are just a few.
Oh, that's really cool. What other types of psychology are there? And what's the specialization that you're interested in?
My God. Honestly, I'm at that stage in my life where I'm just interested in studying. You know, I don't really want to make a difference yet.
Oh my god. You want to keep that in?
Yeah. I just want to learn, you know?
All right. But there's a lot of subtypes of psychology. I was like shocked to learn there was this much.
Mm-mm.
Like, I think how many? There's like over 20. I'm
not sure.
I can't remember the number, but there's like a bunch. There's like even neuropsychology. There's sports psychology, which is very new. And then there's also what else?
There's industrial organizational.
Oh,
That one's actually pretty handsome in terms of payment. Because generally, industrial organizational psychologists, they are freelancers.
Oh.
And how they work is that they would be recruited by certain companies or organizations to help sort out the structure or the organizational aspect of that. So they would figure out, oh, why is the turnover rate so high this present year? Or why is production so low? Like, what's up? Is it a psychological aspect? So they would so they would hire an IO psychologist.
That's pretty cool. All right. So going back to the topic, you mentioned you had a bad memory. Speaking of which, part of psychology is taking a look at memory. So you mentioned that psychology was a scientific study of mental processes and behavior, right? So could you tell us more about what is usually studied in psychology based on these two things, mental processes and behavior?
Okay, if we look at mental processes, we can look at how people think. For example, how introverts and extroverts, how they think are quite different. Some might take quite a long time to figure out and structure how they want to think, and some might just jump straight to the point.
Ooh.
Those people exist.
Whoa. So what about behavior? What's under the behavior umbrella?
Behavior is so much. You know what? Let's look at us right now. How I'm sat, how we're dressed, where we are, what we're doing. This is all behavior. It stems from culture, parental guidance, parenting styles, how we were taught in school, our religion, respectively. All of this, and how we communicate and how we learn how to communicate. All of that is behavior.
That's true. That's true. All right. So we'll revisit this topic in a bit. Right now, we're going to take a short break. Thank you. Hello, guys. Welcome back to
Psych to Psych.
You have to do it on time. Wait.
Oh.
One. It's okay. It's okay. Keep it. It's okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Psych to Psych. Anyway, so on Psych to Psych, we're gonna have a small activity where we force our guests to draw. I'm kidding. They consent to this. You consent to this, right? We have his consent. So Arif is going to take this board and he's going to draw his thoughts on the theme for today. So the theme for today is, what do you think psychology is? So anything, when you think of psychology, what's the first thing that pops into your head? It could be like a bunny. It could be little Albert. It could be anything. But when you think of psychology, what's the first thing that comes to mind? I want you to take these markers over here and give it a draw. And I will also be drawing.
Okay. Take the first color.
You take it. You're the guest. You're our first guest, by the way. So when we didn't clap, round of applause for Arif. Yeah. We need to do this at the start of the episode, not in the middle of the episode. So I'll take a pink one.
Hello.
Oh, I want this one. It's cuter. It looks like...
So I'm picking the shade pale purple. Nampak tak?
You're blocking it. You blocked it. And I'm picking the shade vivid red. So psychology is...
Oh, did you know like colors also have their own psychological meaning based on culture?
Is that true?
I mean, I don't know if it's pseudoscience. Okay,
That's the
here's the
thing.
thing. Pseudopsychology is so rampant, especially kat TikTok.
Yeah.
Kalau korang tak tahu, kadang-kadang kat FYP akan lalu things like girl facts, 100% true, psychology. And then it would be like, girls like to be slapped. Benda yang random and sometimes not even scientifically proven.
Real. It's uncracked. I once saw a video that be like, according to psychology, if you eat like beans every day, I don't know, like baked beans or something every day, it's like good for you based on psychology. I'm not sure, but like media literacy is very important. Knowing what's true and what's not true, it's very important nowadays. But yeah, it's up to the consumer to be smart about what they view.
But
So it's very important to be well informed.
that's why Society did this podcast, so we can
Yeah.
give you real and hopefully factual information because we're also studying this too.
Yeah, we're doing our best. And so we'll try to do our best to be accountable and responsible informants talking about psychology here.
I mean,
Exactly.
anyways, I got the shade warm gray. We're gonna use it to outline.
So we're also gonna talk while we do this, so we have to multitask. Wait,
Oh, I was already yapping.
Wow. Well, you're great at multitasking. I'm not good at multitasking. So, actually, speaking of misinformation, why do you think the public should be well informed about psychology, or at least make an effort to learn psychology? This is like, I think it's a really important topic to tackle.
You know what? As a man, I can't multitask. I'm sorry. I lied.
That's not a psychology fact, I think. It's not right.
I'm not sure. But
We're not gender psychologists.
Oh yeah.
That's a real psychology, I believe. Gender psychology. It's pretty cool.
Wait, what was the question?
Why do you think the general public should put an effort into learning about psychology? That means you, who's watching, you should put in some effort to learn about psychology too. Oh, it's rude. You. Sorry. It's rude to point. Sorry.
Why should you put in effort? Because psychology, in its essence, in how it was born, it was actually philosophy and science. So it's based on your philosophy on whether or not you want to take it. Technically.
Ooh.
But practically, learning about psychology has so many benefits on you as a person. Because not only do you go through like identity discovery, exploring yourself, exploring your own roles and your facets within your life. Like, for example, the other day, our lecturer, Sir Sean, he asked us a question. Who are you? And just like this room, it was silent. Because people can't answer that, you know? Students aren't able to comprehend that. They cannot portray themselves verbally.
Yeah.
Even though we already know who we are as like people, we still don't know how to convey that, and we still don't know how to conceptualize that into words. Jadi pada reality ni lah, psikologi dia ada banyak manfaat, ada banyak hikmah dia. Antaranya boleh belajar tentang diri sendiri, boleh belajar tentang orang.
That's right. And that's like, I think that's why a lot of people like in our like major, that's why we pick psychology. Like for me, right, I found that psychology helped me understand myself and the people around me a lot. And like I felt like it taught me more to be like a better person, a bit more empathetic, because I can be pretty cold in my opinion, you know.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, it's true. When you learn about psychology, you tend to like look deeper into yourself, and it helps you look at people from a different perspective. I'm very bitter about some of the people around me, but psychology has helped me understand them a bit more. But even though I understand, I feel like I do need to put in more effort to be a better person as someone that aspires to be a psychologist one day. You know?
I mean, inshallah.
And you? Why did you pick psychology? How do you think it's influenced you?
Girl.
You're the guest. We gotta make you yap too. We gotta make you talk too.
Honestly, I want to pick psychology because I want to help my family.
Aww.
But also, have you seen how much they make? Like, come on.
Oh,
you get to talk to someone and you get to gossip with someone ethically, and you get to make money from that. Like, I love that.
Oh my god. I mean, by the way, psychology is not all talking, by the way. There's also researching. There's also speaking and teaching, which is like every profession ever. But it's not just talking. It's also exploring your emotions. Arif, tell us about that. How psychology is used to explore emotions, especially in therapy. Going back to the counselor, therapist, psychologist thing.
There are so many perspectives, actually. But one of the most popular ones is psychodynamic, which is from Freud. And basically, you have to look at your inner self based on your past and everything, and how that influenced you now in its essence.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, perspectives in psychology. Speaking of psychology, like over the history of psychology, like there's been so many ways people have approached it, like from the biological one to psychodynamic, like Sigmund Freud. He's like, I think is he like considered the father of psychology, or is that someone else? Who was the father of psychology again?
Oh my gosh, it's like, I don't know, it's like a foster home.
Oh,
You know, there
what?
are so many people.
What? You can't just say that.
If
Wait.
you want to look at theory,
Mm-hmm.
Freud is the father. But,
Mm.
but at the same time, in the US, it's,
What was it saying? I'm Googling it. Hold up.
I forgot. But he is, I think, the first one in America
Yes.
to do it.
Oh, no, I don't think it. Wilhelm Wundt, lah, bro.
Wilhelm Wundt as well.
Wilhelm Wundt is the father of psychology. And I don't think he's American. He's German.
But there are so many
I can't
fathers. There are actually a lot of psychology fathers. Wilhelm Wundt, he was the first person to erect the psychology lab.
Yeah.
The first ever psychology lab.
Uh-huh.
I think in Germany. I forgot where. I think it's in Warsaw. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Ooh.
Oh,
We're all focused on the drawing.
Yeah.
Bad at multitasking. Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. But we're having fun. You're supposed to be having fun, you know?
Really? Oh my god.
Oh,
wait,
yes.
hold on.
Based on this, speaking of this, by the way, did you know there are a lot of different types of therapy in psychology? So one of the therapies that's done in psychology is art therapy. I don't know much about it. One of our classmates are more into that.
Mhm.
Not me though. But yeah, that's another thing. A lot of people I notice in our major, they tend to get into psychology because they're like really into the arts. Like our director, she's really into photography. I just learned today she's really into photography, and that's the reason she got into psychology, to learn more about human emotions.
Yeah,
Right.
actually. Psychology and what we do, if you are cooking right now or if you're eating, that is psychology. What you choose to do, how you prepare it, how much spices you do, what you cook, that is psychology. How people think, how people do what people do and everything. It's a lot and it can get intense. But I agree, yeah. A lot of people start psychology because they wanna learn
Mm-hmm.
about people's emotions. Some of them come from really bad backgrounds and they just want to learn from that background. Why did it happen to me? Was it my fault, you know? And I know that's quite touchy, but it is a very real thing in people's lives.
Yeah.
Trying to learn from their past.
I think that's a lot of the reasons why people tend to study psychology. That's another reason why you should study psychology, you know? If you want to help someone, if you want to help yourself, it's great to pick up psychology, you know? Like, for example, developmental psychology. If you're a parent, picking up developmental psychology is great to understand how your child is thinking, how they're going to feel during those phases in life. I'm quite grateful, actually. My mom, she studied a bit of psychology when I grew up. And, you know, it helped a lot when she understood. Of course, we still had our disagreements.
Yeah.
It's normal. But I'm quite glad she did study a bit of psychology. And I'm quite glad that, like, they made an effort to understand me. But I think that's one of the best things about psychology. Through understanding, I like to think that it's through understanding we can foster empathy. And maybe we can make, maybe it's a bit childish in some people's eyes, but I think psychology can make the world a better place. Maybe, hopefully, one day a more peaceful place as well, through humanity and understanding.
You know what I mean?
Amen. Let's go.
Because you're right, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Psychology it doesn't force you to understand, but it makes you want to understand.
Yeah.
Because how people think, what goes through their head, it's insane. Like the amount of knowledge, the amount of experiences, a lot of syariah punya a lot of philosophers actually in Islam, they mention that Allah's power is quite vast. And whenever I learn about psychology and how people think, it reminds me of that, you know? How people are so different from each other. It's amazing.
That's another thing I learned in psychology. Like, you know the term everybody is unique in their own way. It's cheesy, but it's very much true, you know? I feel like psychology makes a person open-minded.
Mm-mm.
It makes them, like, when you're faced with something that's new, or you're faced with a new person, it makes you like, oh, okay, this is a new person. Okay, cool. What's this? Let's go figure this out. And like, I noticed another thing, right? Psychology is great for like our introverted classmates. I noticed that a lot of our introverted classmates become like, I noticed they're less scared to like interact with people, especially like as we go on into the course. Did you notice that in your like course?
Yeah, I'm so proud of my students. Sorry, I'm so proud of my classmates. They've learned and they've grown so much. Astaghfirullah, mashallah. They, in comparison to their first semester, they're different people, and I'm glad to say that, and I'm happy to say that.
Right. Psychology changes lives, you know, for the best, I like to think. And when it's used right, you know. And that's what I liked about psychology. I felt like psychology helped me to motivate myself to be a better person. And it did help a lot of the people around me, you know. And that's like one of the reasons why I'm very passionate about psychology.
Not to rush you, but I'm done.
I'm done too. I'm just adding details. I want to show the camera. So, what do you think psychology is, Arif?
I think psychology is learning outside of yourself.
Ooh.
Carl Jung, or Carl Jung, however you want to pronounce his name, he came up with a theory of the different levels of your personality. So this is similar to that. So you have your outer self, what you present to everyone, your inner self, what you present to close people, and then your hidden self, which is what you don't really want to show.
Wow.
So you learn outside of that.
Wow. Mine is super cheesy. I like to think that psychology is a light in your heart. You know, it is like the first thing we talked about was like how psychology is how we look into ourselves, right? So maybe we don't know what's going on in our hearts, or we don't know what's going on in other people's hearts. And I think psychology allows us to look into it, you know, maybe take a light and we're like, oh, so that's what's in your heart. Oh, you're hurt. Oh, you're happy. Oh, you feel this way, you know? That's what psychology is.
I love yours actually.
Yours is cool too. That's like educational. It's like childish.
Hey, it's abstract.
Abstract? That's not abstract art. It's okay. I'll yap about my nerdy things later. All right. How many more minutes do you have left? And I think we've covered it. So to summarize, psychology is...
It's a scientific study about two things, mental processes and behavior. And we look at humans.
And why should you, the viewer, continue watching our podcast and learn more about psychology?
So you can get better at learning about yourself and learning about other people and the world around you.
Right. Every day, you learn something new. And I hope that after this episode, a lot of the viewers here will continue to watch our podcast and learn more with us. Thank you so much. This was Psychetoside with me, Erica, and
Arif.
And once again, this was one
Psychetoside!